The Two Harriets. Many people fought against slavery in the United States. They were called abolitionists because they wanted to abolish or get rid of slavery. Two of the best-known abolitionists were both named Harriet. Harriet Beecher Stowe and Harriet Tubman. Harriet Beecher Stowe was the sixth of 11 children born to a minister and his wife. She was just 5 years old when her mother died. At age 13, she started going to a school founded by her sister, where she learned to be a teacher and started writing. She wrote her first book at age 22. Never give up, for that is just the place and the time that the tide will turn. Harriet Beecher Stowe. In 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, was published. It quickly became a bestseller. Indeed, it was the most popular book in America. Although the book was fiction, it was based on the lives of real people. The novel tells the story of several slaves, but its main character is Tom, a man with a wife and children. Tom is separated from his family and sold to one plantation owner after another. The last of his owners is a cruel man named Simon Legree. Legree orders Tom to beat the other slaves on his plantation. Tom refuses, so Legree beats Tom. Legree ordered his hired hands, called overseers, to kill Tom. While Tom dies, several of the other characters in the book escape from slavery by traveling north to Canada via what is called the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was not an actual railroad, but a network of people who helped shelter and guide slaves to their freedom. Stowe's novel moved many readers and inspired them to speak out against slavery. Many plays were performed based on the novel's characters, but her book angered people in the South, and historians believe it helped lead the Southern states to break away from the North a decade later, which marked the beginning of the Civil War. Uncle Tom's Cabin was so influential that when President Abraham Lincoln met Stowe in 1862, he is supposed to have said, "So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war." Here is a picture of Uncle Tom's Cabin's cover page, written by Harriet Beecher Stowe. I feel now that the time has come that even a woman or a child who can speak a word for freedom and humanity is bound to speak. I hope every woman who can write will not be silent. Harriet Beecher Stowe. Like Harriet Beecher Stowe, Harriet Tubman was one of 11 children. Both of Harriet Tubman's parents were slaves on a plantation in Maryland. Tubman began working at 6 years old, rented out by her master as a weaver. As a teenager, she began working in the fields of the plantation. She suffered many beatings at the hands of the plantation's overseers, which caused permanent damage. Learning that the plantation owner planned to sell her and her brothers, she decided to escape. Guided by only the North Star in the sky, she made her way to Pennsylvania, frequently on foot. But Tubman was not content simply to live in freedom. She became active in the Underground Railroad Harriet Beecher Stowe had written about. Just 1 year after her own escape, she returned to the South to rescue her sister and her sister's 2 children. Then she returned once again for one of her brothers. Sometime later, she returned yet again to rescue her parents. It was not just her family she helped to become free. She wanted to help other slaves escape. She returned to the South 19 times. The exact number of slaves that Tubman led to freedom is unknown. A 19th century biography stated she rescued 300 slaves, while modern historians estimate the total was closer to 70. During the Civil War, Tubman worked for the Union Army as a nurse and a cook. She also became a spy. In one daring mission, she learned the position of the Confederate Army along the Combahee River in South Carolina and traveled on a gunboat with hundreds of Union Army soldiers as they freed about 750 slaves. Both Harriets, Harriet Beecher Stowe and Harriet Tubman, lived fruitful lives long past the Civil War. Harriet Beecher Stowe continued to write, publishing more than 30 books. In her 80s, Harriet Tubman opened a nursing home in her adoptive town of Auburn, New York, for older African Americans. Both women spoke out for women's rights, but Harriet Tubman and Harriet Beecher Stowe are now recognized for their different but important roles in ending slavery in the United States of America.